all. And so God said, here's the verse here again, Romans 1:21, because that when they knew God, they glorified Him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imagination. I want you to listen to that. Vain in their imaginations. General Electric, one of the big government contractors that's going to score big with health care and score big with cap and trade, has a company called Health Imaginations. It's all about the imaginations. And what is the base of the word imagine? Image. Remember in Revelation 13, the false prophet caused... In fact, let's read that, because that is this Bible coming alive in this world today in a way that we never could have dreamed of before, and yet is coming true right now. The Bible says... let's see here. Verse 14, Revelation 13:14. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which He had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. So the imagination has everything to do with people building this image. And here we are, all over the world, building these robots in our image. And it's not enough that they walk like us, move their arms like us, talk like us, wiggle their head around like us. It's not enough that they have hair and clothes and this and that. Now we're teaching them how to lie. We're making them too smart for our own good. And I'm telling you, it's not going to turn out good. So God says they became vain in their imaginations. Remember that word? And their foolish heart was darkened. So now they can't really see that this is... these scientists that made this lying robot, they said, this is actually a good thing. It's healthy. It's going to be good for all the other robots. Their heart is darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like unto corruptible man. And so here they are making these images in the image, not of God, but of corruptible man. That's what they're doing. And they're using their imagination. And if you want to go back to the video that we did on the singularity, what is the singularity? It all has to do with man being way too smart. And there's schools of thought on this. One of them, I think I like this one, that basically says man doesn't really come up with this stuff on his own. It is sort of given to him. And I will tell you that in the days of Adolf Hitler, and this is, I think this is right. I don't believe a lot of stuff on UFOs that's out there, but I think I like this one because we know that there was a group of very evil people behind Adolf Hitler called the Thule Society, T-H-U-L-E. The Vril Society is another name. And we know that they were channeling devils. And these devils were feeding them information, including plans on how to build these little saucer-shaped craft that would fly through the air. And then all of a sudden, Hitler's guys, scientists, are working on this stuff. And they're working on a bunch of other stuff, too, that the Thule Society gave them the ideas for. Well, we won the war, so the CIA, Operation Paperclip, grabs all these scientists that are working on all this stuff and brings them over to Los Alamos and other places out in the middle of the desert where nobody knows where they are. I'm talking about secret compounds. Takes them all the way out there, and now all of a sudden, we're seeing stuff flying around our country. I kind of think there's something to that. I really do. But anyway, I think that knowledge, especially knowledge of stuff like this, I think it's like pouring into scientists' minds. I'll never forget, here not too long ago, I read an article about Francis Crick, one of the guys who helped discover DNA. And he admitted that during the time when he was really trying to focus on the DNA molecule itself and what it looked like, he admitted that he was taking low doses of LSD, basically opening up his mind, and all of a sudden now he's getting these images. He's getting an image of DNA that just happens to look like all of these images throughout all of history of these coiled snakes. I think demons are at work here. I think devils and evil angels are at work here, bringing mankind to this singularity. And it's all through the imagination. So here we are. We go back to Genesis 11. Because this is what man imagined to do back then in Genesis 11. They said, let us build us a city and a tower. And so they do all this stuff, and God says, you know what? Got to put a stop to that. And I saw this, and I want you to see this and see if this makes sense to you. Genesis 11, verse 6. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they began to do. Now, I believe that the original language of the earth back at this time was Hebrew, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Can't prove it, but I just kind of think that that's what it was. And so God confounded, and that's a word I'm seriously studying in the Bible. God confounded all of their languages, and they all had to split up, and they couldn't do what they wanted to do. Did you know that today there is actually a universal language that's literally everywhere on the globe? It's called binary. It is the basic code for which all electronic instruments that have a microprocessor work. It's the same language. It is a language of zeros and ones, a switch being on or off. This goes back to the old days when computers took up an entire 4-story building, and you literally had scientists in lab coats with these big clipboards going around flipping switches to program the computer. The switch was either on or it was off, and that's what the zeros and the ones represent. It is the binary language, and it is the language that every computer in the world speaks. It is the language that every computer programmer, even though they develop more understandable to human languages, such as I remember learning BASIC when I was in high school. There's Java, there is HTML, there's Perl, there's C#. I mean, there's all these computer languages. When it all boils down to it, it's zeros and ones. And they all speak the same language. So watch this. Here's what God said. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down and there confound their language that they may not understand one another's speech. And so the imagination has everything to do with it here. You have all these scientists that are imagining. That's why science fiction writers are so important to the scientific world. They have the imagination and the creativity, and scientists just say, you know what, let's do that. Okay? Beam me up, Scotty. Hey, we could be very well on the verge of being able to do that in the next 10 to 20 years in this world if the Lord tarries His coming. This is where we're going right now, folks, and we have already created a dangerous situation by making the lying robot. We're in serious trouble. Now I'm going to switch keys again. We're going to go from C to A flat here. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about electronics, and I'm going to show you the Bible, and then we're going to get out of here today. Several articles that just came across, and I just kind of put them all together here. One in particular that came out this week. Here's one. India launches universal ID system with biometrics. And so you might have been following this. Every citizen of the nation of India now has to have a national ID card or some sort of identification tag, like you see cows with these little things in their ears, with biometrics, a sample of their DNA, fingerprints, retina scan, whatever it is that uniquely identifies them along with this tag. That's now mandatory in India. It's headed here, but it already is mandatory in one of the nations that has the most population in the entire world. That's the nation of India. Here's another one. Schools tag kids with RFID chips. Stimulus money. Who didn't see that coming? Used for tracking every move inside a school building. A California school district is using some $115,000 of federal stimulus money from the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act to have kids wear vests with RFID chips embedded so their every move inside the school complex can be monitored. Now, I'm going to kind of feed you along as we move through this. I want you to think about this. In India, they're just using it to track all of their citizens so that, we can ID everybody because, people might be able to do stuff if they're not identified. And so we're going to identify everybody. Sounds good, doesn't it? We're just trying to keep everybody safe. We just want